Hello everyone, it's Greg from the Plastic Crack blog, and today I'm going to talk to you about a tournament I went to last week called the Vapnartak Incursion. So last week, me and Luke headed up to York to take part in another ITS tournament, and it was called the Vapnartak. It's very difficult to say, Incursion, and this is at one of the UK's local shows. It was really nice actually having it in a place like that, because usually you have just a tournament on its own and no one really gets to see. So it's quite nice that at lunchtime we got to wander around, have a look at some of the traders, have a look at some of the other games and the tournaments that were being played, but also really showcasing off our tables and our miniatures to everyone else who was there. So I think that's really good for building a community and getting people to see that this game is actually played and spreading the word. So it was only a small 10-man ITS tournament, and it had the limited insertion rules. I suppose it was meant to be that there were more people, however, a few people couldn't make it on the day, and I suppose we were really worried about getting up there because in the UK we've had quite a bit of snow last week. So we managed to get there fine, and it was a reasonably early start. I suppose dice or setup was at sort of 9 o'clock. Usually they're a little bit later, so it was an early start for us. And when we got there was actually loads of space, which was really nice. Sometimes you're quite limited in space, but it was at the Yorkshire racecourse, and it was quite interesting because it was about 3 or 4 stories, and you had sort of traders and tournaments on each one of those, and demo games and bars and a place to get food. So it was quite spread out, which was nice, and we didn't really have any issues in terms of space and for getting our boards on. So that was good. It was 3 rounds, and I will go through with you how they went. So I took my tack again because they were painted. My Toha weren't painted, and particularly for one of the missions for decapitation, I didn't want to take an army that had chain of command. I suppose I could have taken 2 lists and that would have worked better, but in terms of having Toha, it seems really weird to be taking them and not using the Symbiomate, so I couldn't get my head around how exactly I was going to get that to work, so I didn't bother, and I took tack again, and it was a horrible mistake. So I will go through my list with you. So I had 4 Spetsnazes with HMG. I took 2 Strelocks with boarding shotgun who were forward observers. I had Vasily with a T2 marksman rifle, who's my lieutenant, a Kazakh doctor, and 2 scouts to make up the 10 models. So I thought, and I suppose this is probably a mistake that I think I make quite often, is that when you find something decent, something really good, so the Spetsnaz HMG are fantastic in the sense that they ignore cover when they're shooting because of their marksmanship, they have shock, and they can surprise attack. So I thought that would be a really good idea. And I think I tend to find something I like and then put multiples in the list, and it doesn't necessarily always work because you're pretty one-dimensional then, and I think that was definitely a problem I had on this tournament. So so I'll go through the missions that we played and why you definitely should not take tack to limited insertion, or at least the list that I took. Okay, so the first mission that we played was Unmasking, and I was against Russ. Funnily enough, I played Russ first at Sheffield just a couple of weeks ago, so it was a little bit disappointing that we travelled sort of an hour and a half to play people I can play every night at my local game club and someone that I played so recently. However, getting a little bit cocky going into the game, I felt very confident because at Sheffield I managed to take apart Russ's steel, I suppose, was it steel phalanx on the day? I think it was vanilla Aleph. Or it might have been OSS on that day, I cannot remember off the top of my head. However, to this tournament he took OSS, or 04S I think you call it. I'm not 100% sure of them at the moment. So I'll go through his list. So he had an Asura as a lieutenant. It was level 2 hacking device plus with the upgrade with a multi-rifle. He had a Yadu with a multi-rifle, a Rudra with a Red Fury, a Proxy Mark 1 engineer, 2 Yudbots, a Shukra with a boarding shotgun and biometric visor level 2, a Dakini with a HMG, a Dakini paramedic with a combi, a Dakini just a regular Dakini with a combi rifle, and a Rebot Forward Observer bot. Is it the Forward Observer bot? Sorry, no, the missile launcher bot. A CSU with a breaker rifle, and a Proxy Mark II is the hacker. So I was reasonably confident with this, although it was a very different list from what Russ had played at Sheffield, and I assumed that his Rudra was going to be his main attack piece again. However, he used his Asura, and I'd never played against Asura, fantastically. I really struggled against that. It completely tore through a lot of my army because it was just spending orders to fully reveal. There was no rolls involved, and that was really horrible. So I really struggled with that. I suppose I think on this game I had quite crap dice. I think the rest of the tournament, to be quite honest, I played awful, and I made some poor choices in terms of list choices. But in this game, I felt I had reasonably poor dice. I couldn't achieve anything, and I suppose a lesson going forward that I think I should have picked up on from Sheffield in general is that I seem to be doing objectives too late. So round 1 I was just trying to kill and take things off Russ. Round 2 I was starting to make a push and I suppose secure some of these objectives, as well as I suppose getting over the halfway line. And in the last turn I didn't actually have enough orders left to be able to do some really simple things that I should have, to be honest. It left me in a really poor position for being able to take any of the objectives. So it was poor all round, to be honest with you. So at the end of that game, Russ managed to beat me 9-1, which put me in an awful position. But I was hoping that my second game would go a little bit smoother, and oh, how I was wrong. So my second game, we played Power Pack. I quite both like and dislike Power Pack in terms of the odd deployment that comes with it. We had a bit of a strange table where the middle was very well. There was a huge building that sort of took over most of the board in the middle, but at the edges I had very little cover. So I decided to go first, thinking that would help. So I played against James this time, and it was nice to play against James because I haven't played against him in quite a considerable amount of time. And I'll just get up his list. So James has played Nomads for a very long time. He's very good with them, and he takes kind of a similar-ish list. He almost didn't get to play, but someone dropped out and he was able to get on board, which was nice. But yeah, he's very experienced with them, and I thought I had a decent-ish shot at him. I set up so that my Strelocks were pretty close and that I'd be able to take some of the objectives in Power Pack very quickly. However, it didn't quite go to plan because I think on the first turn, his Salamander did an intuitive attack with a heavy flamethrower that caught my Strelock, 2 Spetsnaz HMGs, and just wiped him out. It was brutal. I couldn't do anything to stop Sally, and I couldn't ignore her. So my tactics was to go and starve her of orders, but that just wasn't happening, to be honest. Sally came over and got full line of everyone, and it just whittled me down. I think on the last turn I had something like maybe 2 or 3 orders, and I really couldn't do anything, which was a real shame. But I had fun doing it. So James's list overall, if I can get that up. So he had an Interventor Hacker, Lupe Balboa, an Alguacil with a combi rifle and a Forward Observer, Sally the Salamander with a Hyper Rapid Magnetic Cannon, which was horrible, a Reverend Custoda Hacker, a Spectre with a combi rifle and Forward Observer, Zoe and Pywell with the Hack and Upgrade Stop, an Alguacil Lieutenant, and a Zero. Yeah, it was a really brutal game, to be honest. And I don't think anything of mine survived. It was horrible, and I felt quite helpless about what to do. I really didn't know how to really tackle it. So I'm just gonna have a quick look. I think at the end of that game, actually, I ended up, if you could, as a -1. It was very, very brutal. Yeah, he got a full 10 points and I got 0. So so far that put me at 2 major losses. With 1 point going into the final round. It was not good at all. But hey ho, it's kind of how it goes sometimes. I was starting to lose a bit of confidence because Masters is coming up. I almost, with how I've been playing in the last few weeks, thought TAC was a way to go. I was feeling very, very confident with them. But I think it goes to show that I cannot run them as a limited insertion list, or especially with this list. So that kind of sucked. So going into the last round, I was playing Chris Jarrett, who is a walker from the Hull area. Me and Chris have played a couple of times before, mainly at sort of like the Northern Open and his own. I've met him at his own Hull event. It was decap for the last mission, and I was playing, I want to say his Starco, however I could be wrong. So I'll just get up his list. So he was playing Akari even. Akari I think have the potential to be quite overpowered. I felt good going into turn 1 with him. So he was playing predominantly with Wu Ming. So we had a Wu Ming link team with a chain rifle, a multi-rifle, a HMG and a boarding shotgun in there. A Clipper drone bot with a smart missile launcher. A Brawler lieutenant. A Brawler multi-sniper. A Tanko with a Blitzen. A Ninja hacker. And a Karakuri with a Mark 12. I won the initiative on this roll and went first, and I suppose really went to town with it. I ran a Spetsnaz up and he did some good work. He took out a few models that were sticking out. The thing I found difficult about this was that you had to kill the data tracker. So I managed to kill the designated target on the first turn, not with my data tracker, but in terms of Chris's data tracker, he put them up prone on a building and there was no way of me getting up there without getting a boarding shotgun to the face. That was really difficult. I didn't really know how to score. I did manage to get a couple of points in the end. However, on his last turn he did a huge push, and one thing I found very, very difficult to cope with was one of the wing wings had a light grenade launcher and he speculative fired his way to victory. He used a lot of dice, but in the end I think it left me 30 points on the table, and he managed to get my lieutenant and the data tracker who had hidden in the very back with some speculative fire, so it really reduced the risk for him. I think there are some situations where speculative fire is quite OP and it's a very good tactic to use. One of the things I like is when the Squallow uses it because it's got the extra damage, but where Chris used it, he used it within a link team and that made it very, very easy. So he got in a decentest range, he had the link team bonus, he got in good range, and that negated the -6 from the light grenade launcher when speculative firing it. It's good because it's a template, it's good because it can ignore cover and hit multiple models. So it was very, very brutal, to be honest. I think he could have scored more points, but I think he realised too late that he had used an order wrongly on his last turn. So I ended up in that game, just have a quick look on decaf. So 10-2 to Chris. So I finished the day on 3 points, which is awful. And I actually ended up dead last, so I don't think I'm going to be bringing this list or the TAC out in limited insertion again anytime soon. I think TAC have some really good toys. I think camo spam is the way to go. I don't know what I could have done to have made that better. It was just a really, really brutal. I don't know whether it was the way I played or whether it was the list itself, but yeah, it was a hard day. What was nice of coming last is I actually got the Infinity dice tray, leather dice tray that came out of the box, so at least I came home with something. Although it's knocked my confidence slightly for Masters. So I'm definitely going back to Toha, which I'm more comfortable with. Yeah, this is a very brief recap of what happened at the Vapnartak Incursion, and some encouragement for you guys not to take TAC to any tournaments anytime soon. Let me know if you've had any success with limited insertion with these guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care.